guys, today I'm going to teach you now how to factor trigonometric functions here where factoring is easy. iFactor.com. So the first method of factor I'm going to teach you is how to use the difference of two squares or the dots method. First of all, note that this method is only applicable to perfect squares, so make sure you check your given first before you apply this method. So our given now shall be 25 tan squared theta minus quantity secant theta plus 7 sine theta squared. So our first step is to factor our first term, which is 25 tan squared theta. This shall now be transformed into quantity 5 tan theta squared. On to our next step, step 2. We shall let our quantity 5 tangent theta squared become our first term, and our quantity secant theta plus 7 sine theta squared to be our second term. Because this, our expression will start to look like this. Step 3. We now get the square root of both terms. So our expression will begin to look like quantity 5 tangent theta minus secant theta plus 7 sine theta multiplied to 5 tangent theta plus secant theta plus 7 sine theta. Then this will lead us to our fourth step. Fourth step is we simplify our expression. This will lead us to the factored form of our trigonometric function, and that will conclude the difference of two squares or the dots method. That's just 1 out of 4 of the ways on how to factor this trigonometric function. So on to chapter 2. We shall now use the perfect square trinomial or the PST instead of the dots method. But this time our given shall be 25 secant squared theta minus 20 secant theta plus 4. So on to our first step. We shall extract the square root of our first term. So the square root of 25 secant squared theta is equals to 5 secant theta. And on to our second step, we shall now extract the square root of our last term. So the square root of 4 is equals to 2. After that we've extracted the square root of the first and last term, we shall now proceed to the third step. We'll let the extracted square roots be the first term and the last terms of our factored form. So we put them in the parentheses and we square them. But how do we know which sign to use? Simple. Since we used a negative on the middle term of our given and a positive on the last term of our given, we shall use a negative this time. So our factored product now is 5 secant theta minus 2, put a parentheses, squared. What about if you're dealing with cubes? This third chapter about the difference of two cubes or the DOTC is for you. So now our given is 512 minus cosine raised to the 21st power theta. Step 1 is to let this equation guide you in order to factor. Step 2. Step 2 is to cube your first term and treat it as your A. So in our case, our first term is 512. So we extract the cube root of 512, which is 8. So 8 will now be our A. Step 3 is to cube our second term. So we get the cube root of our third term, which is cosine raised to the 21st power theta, which is cosine raised to the 7th power theta. Step 4. We will use quantity A minus B, the first term of our factor. So in our case, 8 minus cosine raised to the 7th power theta will be the first term. Next is step 5. We square A. So in our case, A is 8. 8 squared is 64. Step 6. We multiply our A and B. So 8 multiplied to cosine raised to the 7th power theta is 8 cosine raised to the 7th power theta. And for our next step, we now square our B. So our B is cosine raised to the 7th theta. When squared, leads us to cosine raised to the 14 theta. Following the guide equation, we will arrive at the given factor, which is quantity 8 minus cosine raised to the 7 theta multiplied to quantity 64 plus cosine raised to the 7th power theta plus cosine raised to the 14th power theta. That's it! Now you've used the DOTC in order to find the factor. On to our last and final chapter. This chapter shall focus now on the greatest common monomial factor, or the GCMF. Now our given shall be 24 cosine cube theta sine cube theta plus 60 cosine square theta sine cube theta minus 32 cosine cube theta sine square theta. So for our first step is we find a value or a common factor which all the terms in our given can be divisible to. So in the case of our given, the common factor shall be 8 cosine square theta sine squared theta. Now, on to our next step, step 2. We divide the given into a common factor. This leads us into an answer of 3 cosine theta sine theta plus 2 sine theta minus 4 cosine theta. Now, since we've divided it, now it's time for step 3. We can find now the factors of our given, which are 8 cosine squared theta sine square theta multiplied to quantity 3 cosine theta sine theta plus 2 sine theta minus 4 cosine theta. We're done factoring trigonometric functions using dots, PSE, DOTC, and GCMF. I hope you've learned something. Don't forget to check my other videos. This has been iFactor.com, the place where factoring is easy.
Your picture perfect blue, sunbathing on the moon, stars shining in your bones illuminate. First kiss just like a drug, under your influence. Take me over your mind.